All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. So, the SEC football meetings are taking place this week in Florida, with one of the biggest topics being discussed: the potential for more expansion to the college football playoff. Now, what do we know so far? The Big Ten wants the CFP to expand from currently being at 12 teams to 24. And they have the Big 12 and SEC or ACC rather on board with them. But you got the SEC. And the SEC, who along with the Big Ten have controlling interest in the direction of the CFP, is only willing to expand to 16. This right here is setting up to be a game of chicken between Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petitti and SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey. Now, Petitti, who is a network executive first and a conference commissioner second, is looking at the potential television money for more playoff expansion, while Sankey is coming at it from a more practical approach. Now, Sankey is on board with expansion, but not overstepping it, at least for now. Okay, as he used the NFL's recent postseason expansion as an example. The NFL for years was at 12 teams and they expanded to 14, and it's working. Sankey fears that his beloved SEC would stand to lose something from the quality of their regular season contest with an expanded playoff. Over the last 20 years, we've basically been guaranteed at least one meeting each Saturday in the SEC between ranked opponents, which makes for great television. Okay. Every year with the SEC championship game, for the most part, you're guaranteed a top five matchup. Um, the Big Ten, the Big 12, and the ACC, they've all opted, to have some games on Thursday and Friday night, especially the Big Ten with Friday. Okay. While the SEC for the most part has remained steadfast for Saturday. But are there cracks in the foundation of the Southeastern Conference? I say this because you have some head coaches and school administrators around this mega league who are on board with the playoff expanding to 24. But you can understand why, from the standpoint of a head coach or an athletic director, as they have incentives and bonuses in their deals based on their school getting to the college football playoff. However, at the same token, some coaches around the SEC still understand the importance of the SEC championship game, which basically, in my opinion, has become the Rose Bowl of conference championship games. And expanding the playoff to 24 would more than likely do away with the SEC championship game, as well as all of the other major conference championship games. And in the case of the SEC championship game, which is the oldest of the conference championship games, it's become a crown jewel in regards to sporting events in the city of Atlanta. Now, the clock is ticking for the SEC and the Big Ten to agree to expand the playoff. What we know for sure, we're going to have 12 for the upcoming college football season. Okay, for the as far as CFP participants, we don't know what's going to happen after that. But what would it take for Sankey to agree to more than 16 teams? And what would it take for Petiti to change his stance from 24? Well, one thing's for sure. We know, if you're looking at it as far as this thing expanding to 24 teams potentially, we know why the Big 12 and we know why the ACC are on board, because they're basically one bid leagues at this point. And going to 24 would basically guarantee multiple schools from both the Big 12 and ACC getting into the field. And of course, more schools means more money. But you look at it from Petiti's point, and you also look at it from Sankey's point. I think we're looking at a big time stare down here. And I could understand where Sankey is coming from the standpoint that he wants the games all season long to mean something. You don't want guys like the NFL playoffs where, a team is clinched a 2 seed or a team is clinched a 3 seed and they're sitting out guys at the end of the season. And of course, for the most part, we have those rivalry games between schools. Do you want the backups playing when Auburn is playing Alabama? I don't think so. The SEC, they're taking, different strides to, kind of conform with everybody else. They agreed to go to 9 game for a 9 game conference schedule this year. And of course, the ACC has followed suit. And of course, we just heard the announcement today from Sankey that there's no longer going to be a cupcake game prior to the last game. And of course, that has been in place for so many years with the SEC. Basically, their next to last game of the season, they're always playing Little Sisters of the Poor before they go into their rivalry game. So that right there is going to make for more competitive football in this league coming down the stretch. And again, the SEC, they just simply said means more and they want it to mean more. But nonetheless, what does the future of college football and the college football playoff hold? Um, I like I've said before, they just need to get to a point where they say enough is enough in regards to expansion. I feel personally that 12 is more than enough because at the end of the day, you're hearing too many people complain about who they have to play as opposed to, let's go out there and beat these teams. Okay. All schedules are not going to be created equal. I get it, but you still got to go out there and take care of your business. And if you win enough games on Saturdays, then guess what? You're going to be in consideration and possibly in the mix to get to the CFP. And at the end of the day, I look at it just like it is in the National Football League. In the NFL, just win your division, you get to the playoffs, you figure it out from there. In the college football world, you know what? Go out there, win your conference. Okay, that's the bottom line. And the way that things are structured at the moment, we basically know both participants in the SEC championship game are getting to the playoff. Both participants in the Big Ten championship game are getting to the playoff. What it's looked like so far, again, like I said, the ACC and Big 12, unfortunately for their cases, they're one bid leads right now. But that's to be expected because I guarantee you, 2.5 months from now, when the college football rankings come out, the AP Top 25 for the upcoming season, guess what? The litany of the teams that are going to be in that top 25 are going to make up from or be made up from both the Big Ten and the SEC. And I guarantee you, for maybe 4.5 months from now, give or take, when the initial CFP rankings are going to come out, it's going to be the same thing. We see it play out every year with the college football playoff, where the bulk of the teams in that field are going to come from the Big Ten and the SEC. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But you look at the power brokers around college football right now, and unfortunately, they're thinking about more about the money than the well-being of the sport. And of course, they're working for networks separately. You think about CFP expansion right now. ESPN doesn't want more than 12. I'm sure that Fox does because we've already seen ESPN have to basically loan out a couple of first round games to TNT for them to televise those games. Fox would love to have this thing expand from 12 teams to 24 teams so they could try to get into the mix. With that said, what major conference doesn't have a deal with Fox between the SEC and the Big Ten? It's the SEC, who is exclusively with ESPN ABC. So, of course, you can understand why all parties involved on that side of the fence don't want it to expand. And, of course, the Big Ten is pushing for the expansion, more money. And, of course, the ACC and the Big 12 are along with them. So it's one of those where, like I said, this is going to be a very interesting game of chicken. It's not that Greg Sankey is not completely on board with expansion. I feel like, from an outsider's perspective, he just simply doesn't want to be backed into a corner by Tony Petitti and the Big Ten on this thing. It's something where I get where he's coming from, because honestly, at the end of the day, if we're going to go conference by conference, the SEC gives you better quality games on a Saturday to Saturday basis, based off of matchups and based off of rankings. I've said it before and I will say it again. CBS fumbled the bag, okay, when they allowed the SEC to walk away from them, because that game of the week on that 3:30 Eastern slot on a Saturday afternoon for years was marquee territory, okay, and they let it out the door. They have not recovered with the Big Ten yet, okay. With that said, you think about that. You think about that from a conference by conference breakdown. The Big Ten, they give you marquee games, not as consistently as the SEC. And of course, the same can be said about the ACC and the Big 12. But nonetheless, Greg Sankey has his hands full, because first things first, he has to keep the people in his conference happy. And this talk, unfortunately, about CFP expansion is not going to go away anytime soon, because I guarantee you, we saw a couple of SEC teams last year be on the outside looking in of the playoff. What is going to happen if we get some more SEC teams? There's always going to be teams looking on the outside looking in. But what if one of those SEC teams is like the 13th or 14th team again? I guarantee you that's going to like ratchet up the conversation, because again, like I said, it's not going to go away. I personally feel 12 is more than enough, but at the end of the day, it's all about money. But for what it's worth, we're looking at a battle. Okay, the SEC and Big Ten battle it out on the athletic fields all the time. And of course, the Big Ten has gotten the best of the SEC and the rest of the college football world over the last 3 years, because the last three college football playoffs, the Big Ten has been able to take home the national championship. But nonetheless, this battle is going to be waged in the boardrooms. This battle is going to be waged between Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti to see who is going to get their way, even though that the SEC and the Big Ten are supposed to be step by step in this. So let's see, in this ego driven world of college football, who gets their way. Is it going to be Tony Petitti and the Big Ten, or is it going to be Greg Sankey and the Southeastern Conference? Only time will tell. But folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank each and every one of you for checking out the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. And as always, if you like what you heard and saw on this podcast, folks, you know what to do. Just hit that like button, as well as subscribing to this channel. And like I always say, it's greatly appreciated. Also, if you are on the X, formerly known as Twitter, you can check me out anytime at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you give me that follow, it will be my pleasure to do the same in return. And that also goes for Instagram, where you can check me out at 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge. Also, if you're on Facebook, definitely be sure to check out the Sports Depot 365. And as far as I'm concerned, one of the better sports groups going on social media. But until next time, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I'm signing off, and I'm saying thanks once again for checking out the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. Be well, everybody.